Hello everybody, and welcome back into yet another trade episode here for Week 5 Fantasy Football. If you didn't know, I post 4 of these segments every single week here, buy and sell episodes for running backs and receivers, and occasionally I'll toss in some additional trade information, some bonus content, if you will, for other positions like tight end and quarterback. So all the more reason to drop down, click that subscribe button, and turn the bell on if you're new around here to SFS. I'm here to be an interactive tool for you guys this NFL season. So any questions you got for me, feel free to drop those down and pop them in the comment section below. Race on in here, get that bell turned on so I can answer your guys' questions quickly and efficiently. And of course, the quicker you're in here, the better chance I can get in there and get you the answer you're looking for. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I'll be talking through 5 running backs I'm looking to sell here as we approach Week 5 fantasy action. Lots of talking for today's intro, though. Not wasting more time. Let's get started. All right, here we go. So the first name I'll be covering in today's sell high running backs list for Week 5 fantasy football is none other than Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, unfortunately, the reality of the situation for many of you is that you likely drafted Najee in the late first round, if not the top of the second round of your leagues this season. So drafting Najee Harris, plain and simple, kind of set you behind the ball a little bit. This is one of those picks that didn't necessarily give you an edge on the competition at the top of the draft boards. However, there is still some hope to sell him. His floor has been fairly high here through the first month of the season. He's just not giving us the ceiling numbers we're looking for, and part of that is the usage and the situation overall that we'll talk about here right now. So Najee, essentially, it's going to take a package deal to upgrade off of him if that's what you're looking to do here. There are other better NFL offenses today that I might rather invest into, but it might take a package deal, as I said, to get him upgraded to one of those elite tier running backs, which are so few and far between in fantasy football these days. So basically, with Najee Harris, what I've seen so far this season is little to no ceiling value, despite the fact that he scored a touchdown in 50% of his games here, 2 out of 4, that being the ratio here to start this year. And it's just been underwhelming. He's had 18 or more touches in 3 out of the 4 games this season, so the work is there. You're getting those workhorse numbers. The production just isn't following. It has to do with the offensive line play, the overall structure of this offense, and just inefficiency across the board for this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive attack. He needs to be putting up much higher touchdown numbers, which is pretty much unrealistic to ask here. If you're scoring a touchdown one every other game here, that's going to pace you out, to nearly double-digit numbers. So essentially, you would be asking Najee to be one of the elite touchdown scorers of this NFL season if he were to get things back on track here. And even then, you'd be looking for more dependability from him just in terms of his overall yards per carry and receiving involvement in this offense. So is it to say that this absolutely can't happen? No, but as I said, if you're flipping a coin and giving me a touchdown every other week, you're going to get pretty close to cracking double digits here, and you're going to have to start averaging 1 per game if we're going to see these numbers trend in the direction that we're wanting to see. So for this Pittsburgh offense, though, I'm not super confident that that's going to be possible for him this season. Let's look back to last year. The Colts offense, with Jonathan Taylor scoring 20 total touchdowns, was a higher level of production team than this Pittsburgh team is right now. And then Austin Eckler and that Chargers offense were 100% with his 20 total touchdowns, a higher level overall outputting unit than this Pittsburgh offense. So the kind of good news is that you've got to transition to what I'm calling the George Pickens catalyst here in Kenny Pickett in terms of the quarterback play for this offense. No more Mitch Trubisky. I think that can be a positive come the year's end because I think Pickett provides better upside for this group as a whole. However, Pickett, I don't think, is going to make the offensive line better. Unfortunately, he's going to have his fair share of woes getting hit there in the backfield, and Najee is still going to struggle with inefficient play here, especially if that pass game continues to struggle. They're going to be able to load that front more, shut down Najee Harris, and make Kenny Pickett beat them. So it's not that I'm doubting Kenny Pickett. It's not that I'm even more negative on Najee Harris today than I was yesterday, per se, pre-learning about this Kenny Pickett. Obviously, seeing him take foot in the second half of that game, and then on Monday afternoon, we learned that he's going to be the starter for this team going forward. So I think you can almost use the Kenny Pickett insertion into this offense as a positive to try and boost that stock a little bit, sell him. Hopefully someone will get more optimistic, think the offensive ceiling is going to get significantly higher here, and then take advantage of that. So what I wanted to say here, the last thing, via half PPR scoring, like I said, he scored a touchdown in half of his games. He hasn't scored more than 10.5 points in that scoring format. So very disappointing stuff there. You're telling me you can't get 11 fantasy points out of your top 2-round pick. Let's just put it that way. not stuff you're looking for. And of course, we're looking to move on to better options. So if you've got Najee Harris, if you're looking to get a trade package out of him, put some ideas down in the comment section below for me. In terms of what you're working with, I can always offer that stuff up as well. Leonard Fournette, maybe someone to look at. Otherwise, like I said, if you want to package him up with a flex or wide receiver 2 level player and try and get on to one of those elite level running back 1 assets, if you have some depth on your team, you're just a little weak at the top RB position, we can work through that stuff. Of course, Rashaad Penny, another name I'm looking to move off of here. Now, Penny had a great matchup this week. He absolutely dominated. He had his best game of the season, tied his season high at 69% snap share for this Seahawks offensive attack. Now, it's not even that I'm looking to move off of Rashaad Penny because of anyone else in this offense or because of, my question marks about Penny's health, anything like that. The analysis goes a little bit further than that. Rashaad Penny is someone I view as a dynamic player. I think he should be factored in the receiving game here. However, he has 5 total opportunities, that being targets in the passing game for Seattle in 4 weeks. That is 1.25 targets per game. That isn't very good here. 1.2 targets per game. I apologize. Bad math, bad division there. So you've got a player who essentially is having his upside limited, even in these games where Seattle's not very competitive because of his lack of involvement in that phase of the game. That's a problem because this is an offense that's heavily predicated on the run attack, and if they get shut down, this Geno Smith-led offense, when they fall behind in games, he's not being used in that extra dynamic fashion where he can add an extra element to the attack. However, again, they just haven't been deploying him that way. So you've also got the fact that Kenneth Walker, I will toss this stuff out there, but again, it's really not a big of a concern for me right now. It might be later in the season, all the more reason because eventually I think Rashaad Penny's a depreciating asset here. This is his first good, lineup-worthy contest in 4 tries here, averaging 8.88 yards per carry. This is his only 10-plus point fantasy game, as I said, his only lineup-worthy start here. But Kenneth Walker had a season high, career high 36% snap share this week. So again, nothing to panic on today, nothing to really freak out about. He only had 8 rushes for 29 yards, averaging 3.63 yards per carry. So it's not like we're going to see his workload expand next week based off of a super great game here. That isn't the case. That's not what I'm trying to explain to you guys here and put on the table. What I'm more so saying is that the long haul for the season, I do see a point where Rashaad Penny is a depreciating asset here, and if you're not giving me that receiving involvement with a team that has bad offensive game scripts and can get their rushing opportunities slashed because of a negative game script, that's a no-no for me, and something where Seattle, I think, has some pullbacks with this running back room. Now, Jamaal Williams here, tossed him in the video last week. I'm going to toss him out here again. This is just a fair warning, you guys. I understand that for some of you, Jamaal Williams is a really valuable lineup piece to have, and that for those of you, especially DeAndre Swift owners, you're going to want to hang on to Jamaal here. So you can immediately skip to the next player here. I've got timestamps in the description. So if that's the case for you, or if you are just so desperate at a running back position that you need this production next week, I get it. I hear ya, I feel ya. So I'm not trying to pick on Jamaal Williams here, but he does have 6 touchdowns in 4 games. He is literally averaging a touchdown and a half per contest, which is elite levels of opportunity for him here. He has done that in 3 games with a 45% snap share, a week 3 33% snap share, and a week 4 50% snap share. So this is a guy that is essentially walking on out here, not even playing half the snaps in most games, and finding himself in the end zone. And the reason he's doing that is because he's incredibly dynamic. This is a guy that's a very solid rushing threat. He's not the most explosive back in the world, but he's a thumper. He plays very physical, and he's a well-rounded playmaker in this running back role, which makes him a perfect handcuff here. But for teams that are deep and you're literally just stashing Jamaal Williams on your bench, this is a sell-high candidate, a guy who has been balling out in every opportunity he's gotten this year. But plain and simple, once DeAndre Swift takes the field in after Week 7's bye week here, after Week 6's bye week, you've got Week 5 at New England, a matchup where Aaron Jones for the Packers just had over 100 yards on the ground. Then you've got the Week 6 bye. You come back Week 7. DeAndre Swift's a top 5 fantasy running back, in my opinion, in PPR formats when he's healthy. We saw him ball out and be the most efficient running back in the National Football League the first couple weeks of the year when he was actually healthy and playing games for this team. So now that he's out, taking a quick breather, recovering, Jamaal's value obviously is popping. Now, there's a community out there, and I don't entirely fault you guys, but I really don't like to overly project injuries for fantasy situations this year. I've seen tons of comments. DeAndre Swift's made out of glass. He's made out of paper, all that stuff. Guys just don't trust in his health and his availability to stay healthy. So if that's you, again, I understand your case for wanting to hold Jamaal Williams, but those of you who want a more surefire long-term asset, selling Jamaal is the route to go here. So a couple of ways to go about things here. That's the thought process, though, on the side of selling. Antonio Gibson, this is going to be a tough one to field really solid value for. He's been declining here for a couple of weeks now. We had him as an early season sell high candidate. But the time has come, man. I've been talking about this for weeks now. Brian Robinson, good old B-Rob, sounds like he's going to be a factor here going forward. He has been medically cleared to compete, giving the Washington Commanders 21 days to turn around here and activate him for this football team. Now, who knows if that'll be week 5? I think it probably could be week 5. Who knows how immediately Brian Robinson's impact will be felt in fantasy lineups or even the Commanders' offense here. But what I do know is this is a very valuable skill set to this offense, and it will impact Antonio Gibson, who's seen his snap count percentage decline every single week since week 1. So that's a 4-game sample size. That's a month long of NFL action. It's dropped every single game here into the low 40s now. And if you've watched my Damian Harris takes, where he's hovering around 40% of his team snap share, you know I hate that. So I'd move off of Antonio Gibson here. You've got a guy who I think loses his goal line value or viability right now with Brian Robinson being the bigger, more physical back. You've got a guy who I think steals some third down use from him, and we all know what J.D. McKissic represents to this team as a pesky, reception-stealing, opportunistic scat back that basically every Antonio Gibson in the last 2 years has absolutely hated. So Gibson, I'm moving off of him. He has to be a helping piece in a trade. He's not necessarily the focal point of your deal unless you're really looking to buy low for like an RB2 and you can, twist someone's arm to give you A.J. Dillon. But even that I find to be a bit unlikely. So again, not necessarily a sell high here. You're just trying to move on while the value lasts. This is really the last time to do it. If there's guys in your league, they're just like, yeah, sorry, like B-Rob's a dude. You're probably going to have troubles with this one, and I'll be upfront with you guys about that. It's not like you're selling Antonio Gibson for some world-changing player, but if you can use him and move off of him for something that seems better in a package with someone else, we're all about upgrading here, and these are just guys you don't want to have around on the roster moving forward this season. Then finally here, Chase Edmonds. This, to me, is the definition of fool's gold. Chase Edmonds, I had my optimism, but I also had that voice inside of me that was telling me, like, hey, Gavin, you don't want to be drafting Chase Edmonds. This is going to be a situation that just falls on its face here. And the whole community as a whole, I'd say consensus, really picked up on Chase Edmonds right about the same time. I forget if it was like late July or what was going on. And I was like, yeah, Chase Edmonds for a 10th round pick is a really great value. I'm going to start taking advantage of this. And then literally by the end of the week, he was an 8th round pick. And then the following week after that, he was starting to go in the 7th round. And then I would do drafts and he was going in the 6th round. And I'm like, all right, I'm totally out here. As soon as that draft stock went from the 10th round to the 8th round, I was like, I'm done. I've had enough of this. I'm moving on here. And thank God I stopped drafting Chase Edmonds because the numbers tell the story here. Chase Edmonds' first month of this NFL season, in particular the last couple of weeks here, the production has been there in terms of like being a flex level player in some formats. He's a low end flex at that, but he's put up some RB2 level numbers, if you will. I mean, if you're really desperate and have a really thin running back core, you could consider him that. But for me, this is another piece that I'm just looking to move off of here. The reason you could get some value for him is 3 touchdowns scored in the last 2 weeks, so averaging a touchdown and a half in his last 2 outings. This is also a team with no Tua this week. He's been ruled out against the New York Jets. I think that'll basically, the drop-off for me between Tua, I talked about this in a different video, and Teddy B isn't huge, but even so, I still expect a heavier ground approach from this team, just playing a bit more conservative. Well, I don't think the talent is that much of a gap between those two players. I do think that Tua would push the ball downfield a bit more than Teddy B will. So we'll see how that plays out in a full game action in terms of having Teddy out there for an entire 4 quarters and a week-long preparation to get ready. Actually, an extended week to prepare for that game. So the point being here, though, Chase Edmonds, take advantage of that touchdown spiked production and that potential to have a higher rushing game script here and move off of him. Chase Edmonds' snap count percentage for this team has dipped every single week this season, while Raheem Mostert's has increased every single week this season. So it seems like we kind of missed the ball a little bit in terms of who the most productive running back would be for this team. And like I said, Chase Edmonds' value has been on the rise with that touchdown inflated numbers and production for a small running back the last 2 weeks of the year. And he's a guy right now, an RB3 in my eyes, producing and maybe an RB4 once we see this Raheem Mostert trend continue to progress here, putting up fringe RB2 numbers in a given week. Again, not a solidified top 24 play at all, so I've been trying to kind of walk back there for a second, not wanting to kind of misguide you guys with some clouded wording, if you will, but essentially some opportunity to sell him more than he is worth right now. Again, kind of like Antonio Gibson, not going to be a guy that changes your life for you in terms of what you're able to field, but if you can use him as kind of a helping piece to get a bigger deal done and really make a significant upgrade at either your running back or receiver position, that's the route I'd approach this with. So to recap, Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, Chase Edmonds, Rashaad Penny, and Jamaal Williams, names I'm looking to move off of at the running back position. Honestly, it's hard to move off of guys right now aside from these players. I really sat down and thought about this for a long time, what guys I wanted to put in the video today, because to be honest, I could have said sell high on guys like Josh Jacobs. When you see how much of a workhorse he is in that Las Vegas offense and how high of the opportunity share percentage he's getting for that team, I really don't see the need to sell him right now. Guys like Miles Sanders as well, growing his opportunity share percentage of that Eagles offense and really grasping a firmer role on what his team does or what his team asks him to do in a given week. So guys like that have put up really good numbers this past week, you're definitely not buying them because you're not buying them for inflated prices, and you're not looking to sell them either because, as I said, at least in terms of the way I break down those situations, especially with the offensive line for the Eagles and Josh Jacobs' involvement in the passing game as of late, just not names I'm looking to move off of here. So use these pieces to maybe go out and buy some of those other pieces again. And like I said, it's going to be tougher because their value's inflated. But we do have a buy running back segment for today. Check out that episode and our other Week 5 content in that playlist that we've got up on the channel, as well as the links in the description of today's video. I appreciate you guys. Smash the like button before you head on out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.